Sports radio station, and I am still yours truly, Kalada Koruba. We're live on Facebook, Nigeria Info PH. We're still live on YouTube as well, Nigeria Info PH. We're active on X, Nigeria Info PH. You can follow me on social media as well, D Kalada, TheKalada. Now, it's time for us to take a break from talking protests, because we focused on the protests for about 8 days. It's time for us to look away from the protest for a bit, because some things have been happening that we may not have been taking cognizance of. For instance, the petrol situation, not much has been said about that. And yesterday in court, the Rivers State political drama played out. And we didn't get, to hear about it or talk about it, just because, everybody's attention was focused, especially here in Rivers State, because of the disruptors who tried to disrupt the protest and make it political. So we paid all our attention therein. But you're welcome. And I would introduce my guest shortly, but let me run you through what happened, or what I do think happened in court yesterday. So you remember that the Martin Amewule-led assembly had gone to court asking for an ex-parte order, asking the court to stop the Rivers State executive government from spending money. Remember that conversation? And I remember telling you during my big story segment that the court declined to make that happen, right? However, the court did adjourn the case, postpone the case up until the 7th of August, which was yesterday. And during the court session yesterday, two lawyers were now arguing, hey, I am the representative of the House of Assembly. No, you're not. I am. You know why? Because there are factions to the House of Assembly, right? So we've got the Martin-led assembly, and we've got the Victor Okojumbo-led assembly, and the matter is in court. We're yet to hear from, the plethora of court cases as it relates to who the authentic, or which is the authentic House of Assembly. So while we're waiting for all of that, remember, we've been arguing for months as to if both sides have legal backings or foundations to the arguments. Victor Okojumbo would tell you, and he said it in court yesterday, Edison resigned, and I became speaker after that. Edison was speaker because these people left the party, and there was the ex-parte order. All of that stuff. And Martin would tell you, the Federal High Court in January, told me that I'm still speaker, and back, the back and forth. It goes on. It's still on. But now the confusion is, the court cannot rule on whether the government can spend money or not if it does not pass through the Martin-led assembly. That's the appropriation bill through the Martin-led assembly. The court can't rule on that, and so the arguments will go on until it is able to define which is the authentic assembly. But then can the court rule on that, given the fact that the matters are already before other high courts? Anyways, I do have Living Jamala to help me have this conversation. That is his jurisdiction as a lawyer based here in Rivers State. He's also a socio-political commentator, and maybe he would be able, I'm not on his side, maybe he would be able to help us have the conversation. I don't envy him. You're welcome on the show.
Thank you, Kalada, for having me this week, and thank you, Rivers people and beyond, listening to us at this particular moment.
So when I called you earlier today, the first question I threw at you was, are you very much abreast with what happened at the court yesterday? And you said yes, you are. So tell me, what happened?
Kalada, I think your introductory remarks gave a holistic view of what transpired yesterday in court, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja. Yes, like you said in your introductory remarks, there was this suit instituted by Martin Amewule and others representing the Rivers State House of Assembly. They prayed the court to halt further expenditure of the state government. Remember, like you said in your introductory remarks, the court refused the motion ex parte and asked that the respondent be put on notice. And now the matter came up yesterday on the issue as to representation of the plaintiffs in the circumstances.
Is that even possible in the first place?
Yes,
I bring a matter to court. Is the court not supposed to listen to
ordinarily, you as a lawyer, you can't be secured to initiate a process. And if there are circumvening events that will make the your client having some form of a reservation or to the representation, it can also be for another lawyer to take over from you. The other in-house arrangement having been fulfilled. But what transpired yesterday, the status of the Rivers State House of Assembly was used in instituting an action. I am not a member or I am not a staff of Nigerian Info. And if I should institute an action in the name of Nigerian Info, and Nigerian Info gets to hear about that institution of an action, if they are not satisfied that I can represent their interests, they will decide to bring in another counsel who will represent their own interests.
I do like the example you've given. However, we know that the status of who is a member, who is not a member, is in court. So, you know what you say, for instance, if the governor wins an election and is being tried in court, he remains governor until the Supreme Court.
That provision is covered by the Constitution and even the Electoral Act.
So my point
is different from every other proceedings,
but
unless provided so by law.
This is not so much of a difference because it's still people who were elected, but now there is the argument as to whether they have lost their seats or not.
Remember we have two-side arguments.
Okay.
One believing that they exist, others believing that they do not exist. So for those who believe that they do not exist, they stop to carry on their functions as stipulated by law as members of Rivers State House of Assembly. And if you are of that school of thought, it therefore means that they lack the local standard to institute an action in the name of Rivers State House of Assembly. But if you believe that the issue as to whether or not they have defected is neither here nor there, but because they are coming through the back door to say they've never defected, and although some persons are of the view that their defection was a little bit protected by law, and if you believe in that school of thought, then you seeing them acting in the capacity that is now claimed to act will never be of any disturbances to you. But for those who believe that their defection, as provided for section 109 sub 1g, makes it automatic that they have lost their seat, it therefore means they cannot act as members of Rivers State House of Assembly. That is the local standard we're looking at it.
Remember our last conversation?
Yes.
You said, everything that they do would become null and void if the court sees them
when the court finally.
So why don't we wait?
I said, remember, there are two schools of thought.
I listen to your schools of thoughts.
Fine.
But my point is, why? I mean, what is the? Because I'm not wondering, can the Federal High Court rule on who is the authentic assembly, given that competent courts or courts of coordinate jurisdiction, I beg your pardon, have already started seeing that matter?
Now, the issues that are before the Federal High Court sitting in Rivers State is different from what is presently happening in the Federal High Court Abuja Division.
How so?
It is so because that of the Rivers State Federal High Court is determining the status of these assembly members, whether their actions by way of cross-carpeting is protected for under the law, and if it is not, it therefore means they have lost their seat. Now they acting in the belief that they are still members of Rivers State House of Assembly, and in the capacity that Amewule is still the Speaker of Rivers State House of Assembly, they instituted an action at the Federal High Court Abuja Division to the extent that the budget for 2024 was never approved by them as contemplated by law. While the second school of thought is of the view that they are not in existence, they believe they are in existence. Okay. So whatever actions that they are carrying on in the belief that they are in existence, until the court so rules that no longer in existence, those actions to them, they believe it is legal in the circumstance. But for those who do not believe that those actions, their defection, rob them of the status of members of Rivers State House Assembly, whatever they are carrying on is null and void.
But you see, I don't know if I want to agree with you. That is what is in court here in Rivers State, the Federal High Court in Rivers State, the status. Because we would not be able to determine if the appropriation bill should go to Martin Amewude-led assembly without first of all determining if they are legit members of the Rivers State House Assembly.
I agree.
So yet
that
again,
is their own position.
No, this is what
the governor has presented a budget to the persons he feels.
No. This is what I'm saying. This is me thinking now. The matter is in court.
Yes.
So it's not a matter of thinking now. The matter is in court. And so if the matter is in court, it means that there is an argument that the court should look at. But the court cannot look at that argument given the fact that now, because if you look at the report on what happened in court, what transpired in court, the CBN is saying we cannot respond because we don't even know who the actual plaintiff is. The Zenith Bank now that was mentioned in that suit as saying we cannot respond because we don't know who the actual plaintiff is. So how then would the Federal High Court look into the matter given the fact that they don't know who the actual plaintiff is? So can the Federal High Court look at that matter?
The Federal High Court can only look at that matter upon deciding whether or not the persons who, in quote, instituted that action indeed have the status or are protected by law to come in the name of the Rivers State House of Assembly. Now, there is this contention by the learned senior advocate who appeared for those he believed are the authentic Rivers State House of Assembly members. Exactly. So that decision, that position must be settled one way or the other by the court before the proceedings can go on.
But my point is, if the court, and I agree with you, right?
Yes.
But my confusion as a non-lawyer is, if that is the case, would that not in any way be pitting the Federal High Court in Abuja against the Federal High Court in Rivers State, because they are both courts of competent jurisdiction?
And I get the point you are coming from. From whichever way you look at it, the decision as to the status of these members will be decided upon by either of these courts. But remember, the issue before them, though correlated, though connected, they are not the same in all falls. Remember, I have laid the foundation that what is before the Rivers State High Court too, presided by my Lord Justice Obile, is to the extent whether their defection to the APC is protected by law, whether it is not in contravention of Section 109, subsection 1G, and 2, reading together. What is before the Federal High Court in Abuja is to the effect that whether the Rivers State House of Assembly can continue to spend the monies of Rivers State without having been approved by the Rivers State House of Assembly, as also contemplated by law. And now there is this new emergence as to whether or not they have the local standard to institute the action in the capacity that they have so far presented before the court. And so for whichever way you look at it, the court has to decide whether they have the local standard, and that is to the effect that whether they are truly members of the Rivers State House of Assembly.
I do have a commercial break coming up in about 50 seconds, but I'm going to throw the question to you so maybe you can meditate on it. Let's go beyond this argument and say the court eventually rules. And you know my style, I always have what ifs in my pockets. What if it is ruled in favor of Martin Amewude? What then happens? What are the repercussions? What is going to be the impact of such a ruling? Because we always would, like you've said, argue that there are several schools of thoughts as it relates to this matter. But we'll look at that what if when we do come back from the commercial break. Please do stay tuned to 92.3 Nigeria Info. And remember, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and you can drop your comments there in Nigeria Info PH. Defense for Human Rights accuses police of aiding attackers of end governance protesters in Port Harcourt. DSS denies raiding NLC office. Federal government suspends the sale of 40,000 naira bag of rice. Boat mishap kills scores of people in southern Ijaw, Bayelsa State. On the foreign scene, 84-year-old Nobel laureate sworn in as Bangladesh's interim leader. Details in the 6 p.m. bulletin. To reach the news team, send an SMS or WhatsApp to 0808 721 7215. To stay tuned.
This is Hard Facts.
Bottom of the hour, you're still listening to 92.3 Nigeria Info, your talk news sports radio station. I'm yours truly, Kalada Kurubatabu, and this is Hard Facts. All right, well, you're welcome, right? So we're looking at one story we missed out on yesterday, and I have with me in the studio a lawyer based in River State and a social-political commentator living Jamala, and we are looking at a case, the political drama, Rivers political drama that happened in Abuja, Federal High Court Abuja yesterday. So before the break, I asked a question and I said, okay, what if the court rules in favor of Martin? What are the repercussions, the possible implications of that?
Yes, without speaking to the merit of the case, I have a right of my personal view, which your question seemed to, from my own personal view, it's like having the camel passing through the eye of a needle. Okay. If the court will hold that view, of affirming your question. But assuming without considering that the court goes ahead.
You know, it's for academic purposes.
I agree. I agree. That's why I say, assuming without considering that the court goes ahead to give legitimacy to the Pro 27. It means that yes, they have the legal standard to institute the action, and that the budget, having not passed through them for approval, is against the intentions of the Constitution, and therefore is a nullity. So whatever that has been carried upon by the said approval of that budget, remember there is this principle in law that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand.
True.
And so the foundation therefore be destroyed. What would the righteous do? So if the court agrees with them, it therefore means that every action taken by the River State government stands a nullity.
Now, I just mentioned it's for academic purposes, and the reason why I asked is because if it swings in that direction, what then happens to these other court cases here in River State having to do with the legitimacy of the Martin-led assembly? What happens? Does it automatically also end?
The question you asked me was never to the point that if the court affirms that their defection is justified by law.
No, remember we agreed.
What exists in River State Federal High Court and Port Harcourt Judicial Division is to the extent whether their defection is justified by law.
Now, Barrister Jamala, what we agreed before now was that there is no way that the court will rule on the expenditure matter without first determining which house is legitimate. I agree.
To the extent of we have double representation.
Exactly. So if that is put in the court records, that we recognize, because they would have to recognize Martin and his colleagues first before it gets to determining whether the River State
is properly briefed.
Exactly my point. So what then will that in any way, my question, affect what is happening at the River State
if the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja in one way or the other determines the status of their mewleys, therefore that puts to rest the proceedings before in the River State Federal High Court sitting in Port Harcourt.
Really?
They are court of coordinate jurisdiction, and therefore they cannot be seen ordinarily
going against themselves.
But remember, their decisions also are persuasive between themselves. They are not binding on the other. But if you want to look at how judicial proceedings, how it carries its activities, once a court has given an order, that's what we call abuse of court processes. Bringing the same issues, the same parties before two courts or multiple courts to what we call forum shopping, looking for which of them that will give you the orders that you're looking for. If a court of competent jurisdiction has decided, the best one either of the parties could do is to appeal that proceedings, not to institute another action before a court of coordinate jurisdiction. So if the Federal High Court in Abuja peradventure decides on whether or not their defection is justified by law, and maybe looking at it from the negative part of it very slightly, that it approved the legitimacy of the Mewoles, then those sitting in River State, the court sitting in River State, will be persuaded by the actions of the Federal High Court in Abuja.
All right. So, I understand that court cases are determined based on evidence and based on what is so.
Yes.
So
the evidence you place before the court determines to what extent justice is delivered.
So we will have to wait then for the courts to do the needful. That's where I was going to. Let's quickly open the phone lines and let's see if I could take one or two calls, because it's almost time for me to leave the studio. 0817-923-0002, 0817-923-0003. What do you make of what is happening, or what happened, what transpired yesterday at the Federal High Court? But do you think any of this is in a way to waste time? I'm wondering, do you think so? Do you think any of the plaintiffs are using this as a method of wasting time, like I said? Because we saw that happen with the other case, is it in River State, where two PDP lawyers were arguing as to who is supposed to be the actual representative of the PDP in that matter. But do you think this is time wasting?
I do not, on the part of the plaintiff. I think they are the one that instituted the action, and they will not be in a position to willfully allow their own case to be stalled by whatever process that is coming thereafter. On the part of the respondents, it is also, I know it's one of those politics in the litigation that you find a way to stall the proceedings, delay the hearing of the process.
So we can't blame the courts now.
We can't blame the court in this circumstance, because these are issues of the court will decide one way or the other.
Okay.
And who are those persons bringing these issues up? The parties. So
these are the technicalities we get here.
Exactly.
All right. I've got Emeka from Port Harcourt. Emeka, welcome. What is on your mind?
Please, what I want to ask your guest is that I don't know if there's any lawmaker that defected either state or National Assembly and his seat or her seat declared vacant and in a conduct election. Because what I see is it because of the Happy River State, it was the River State session, this session, that I wanted to ask him that question, because people have been inviting several lawyers and
but that's not where I think we've dealt
with. Last time I'll give him instances.
No. The point is, the matter is in court, so I'm just going to wait for the court to. So just wait.
I know.
Exercise some patience.
I want you to tell me if there's any other lawmaker that defected
and automatically.
But apart from this one, River State.
Okay.
And in a conduct election.
Okay, fine. He will answer.
So I want you to answer me that one.
He will answer you. Alozie from Amuma, welcome.
Good evening.
Welcome. Alozie, welcome.
Good evening.
Like, this issue of River State determining the legitimacy of River State of Assembly, the back and forth, I think that the judiciary was very swift in determining this issue. This loggerhead we are having today in the state, which for me is undermining the smooth flow of the legislative arm of the government. I'll give the blame to the judiciary.
Alozie, I just asked a question, and he just answered. Is it the judiciary's fault? I doubt, because the lawyers are bringing in technicalities to stall the court cases. So can you really blame the judiciary for technicalities being employed by the lawyers?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
But I expected the judiciary to be very swift on this issue that is contending with the constitution of the nation. Yeah, every person now is quoting Section 109G, Section 109G. Yes, that particular section has never been determined by the court. And so many persons have said that the constitution is set a decree and so many issues that is coming on this. So I expect the judiciary to save the Rivers legislature at this point. The Rivers Assembly is bleeding. We need to have one particular house that will take our petition and other things to. So this whole thing is back and front. For me, putting it as politics, it will stay the 4 years. They will be beating about the bush, nothing to cry home about.
All right.
Just take this word and put it to the back.
All right, thank you. I've got Lumba. Lumba is the last caller for now. Lumba, welcome. Lumba is calling from Port Harcourt.
I greet you, Canada. You see, the matter you people are talking about. This is why we are seeing this type of protest we are seeing. Is because of people who are supposed to know. We behave as if they don't know. Because if you see this thing that happened, this way this happened last year. If you look at this year don't divide into two. And we are still,
the year is almost coming to an end. It's beyond 2 now. We're entering the last quarter very shortly. Very soon.
Yes, yes. What I'm saying is this: they're still running around. It's like somebody who wants to climb a tree. The person around the tree, around the tree. Along the line, many damages will be caused. If they must decide this case when it happened, and they stand, defend their constitution, they are eating money for, that make them what they are. I don't think all these crises we're having today will happen.
All right.
Those who commit crimes, I know that they committed crimes.
All right.
If not many people do this thing, what do you think the judiciary will do? All this dance around, the groups are the dance around. These men have broken the law. Law will break them.
All right. All right, thank you, Lumba. Now let's come to you, Barrister Jamala. You wanted to react? You wanted to give us instances?
Yes,
I can see your pen and paper working. Right?
Yes, I want to draw the attention of a caller who asked whether or not Section 109 has been activated by the court, and I want to refer him to that of Ephraim Muzi in Rivers State. Sometime is it 2018?
I can't remember
when he defected to the All Progressive Congress. The then governor Wike instituted an action asking the Federal High Court to declare his seat vacant. Now, in Cross River State, some members of the assemblies cross-carpeted, and the court held that upon that their defection, without fulfilling the conditions stipulated in subsection 2, subsection 1 also of 109. Therefore, there not being a division in the political party, there not being a merger in the political party, that they stand to lose their case. And there are also several authorities, even from members that were at the House of Reps. In fact, before the case of Ephraim Muzi went to Court of Appeal to the extent of preliminary objections, there were several members at the National Assembly or from the House of Representatives that upon their defection, their parties took them to court, and the court nullified, asked them that their seat has been declared vacant. So it is not true that Section 109 has never been activated by the court. It should make its finding very clear.
All right, your final words, because I have to leave the studio right now.
My final word is very simple. For those who are contending that those who have defected can institute the action in the capacity that they have so far presented, I think it will await the decision of court to decide whether or not. But before the court will make that pronouncement, certainly look at the activities of those pro-27.
Canada rebuttal conversation continues after the major news at 6. Right now, we do have a commercial. Just stay tuned.